Hello everyone, and welcome to Bizarre Movies. Today we will recap a sci-fi horror movie, in which a scientist takes advantage of many women, by developing a formula that allows him to become completely invisible. But before we start, a gentle reminder that this is just a movie explanation and we encourage you to watch the full movie. Spoilers ahead, watch out and enjoy. The film begins with Dr. Sebastian Kane. He's working on a scientific formula in his apartment. Sebastian runs a simulation that fails. Suddenly, he notices his neighbor taking off her clothes. Then he feels let down when she shuts the curtain. He has a moment of clarity, and reworks the chemical formula while running another simulation. This time, the formula is stable, and Sebastian succeeds. He then calls his ex-girlfriend and co-worker Linda McKay, to tell her about his success. He notices a man lying in her bed, and asks who it is, but Linda turns the camera away from the bed, stating that her love life is no longer Sebastian's concern. He tells Linda that he has discovered the chemical formula for reversion. She's impressed with how quickly he figured it out. He asks her to contact their colleague Matt, in order to prepare Isabel, the gorilla, for a live test. After dropping the call, Linda wakes Matt up, and informs him that they must rush to the lab, because Sebastian has finally cracked the reversal formula. When they arrive, with visuals it is clear that these scientists have been working on altering quantum fingerprints of living organisms. They have already achieved making animals invisible, and now Sebastian has cracked the reversal formula, to make invisible animals visible again. Matt goes straight to Isabel's cage, one of the invisible animal, with special thermal glasses to sedate her, but the animal scratches him, and runs out of the cage before he can inject her with a tranquilizer. Matt runs into Sebastian in the hallway while chasing the ape. After grabbing a tranquilizer gun, he informs that Isabel has been more aggressive lately. Matt fires the tranquilizer at the gorilla, but it misses. Sebastian immediately responds with a single shot, that knocks the ape out. Dr. Sarah storms in, and accuses Sebastian of injecting the new formula into Isabel, without first testing it. Sebastian claims that skipping the tests will save them time. Linda cuts them off in their conversation, to tell Sebastian that the lab is ready. After checking Isabel's vitals, Sarah sprays the gorilla's arms with dye, and taps it to prepare for the injection. Sebastian takes the syringe from Matt, as he prepares to inject the serum into Isabel, saying the honor should go to him. The serum enters the veins of the ape and travels to the heart. As Isabel's vital organs become visible, the research team is astounded. The gorilla, however, begins thrashing around in pain, as her blood pressure and heart rate rise. Linda uses a defibrillator to shock Isabel back to life when her heart stops. As Isabel's condition improves, her body becomes more visible. They're celebrating their early success by going out to eat. Linda and Sebastian then have a serious discussion. During this, he expresses his desire to reconcile with Linda. Turns out Sebastian still has a thing for her and wants her back. He returns to the lab to see how Isabel is doing. There's also an invisible dog there, which he pets, and asks about the experience of being invisible. Sebastian later submits their findings to a Pentagon commission. Linda and Matt are surprised, when Sebastian tells them that he was unable to reverse the procedure. Sebastian informs the committee that the research team is almost there, but they need more time. Sebastian informs Linda and Matt, that he is not yet ready to inform the Pentagon of their success, because he is concerned that the government will take over the project, once the findings are reported. He believes they should skip directly to the human trials, and do it without permission. When they return to the lab, Sebastian informs the rest of the team, that they have been granted permission to conduct human testing, due to his voluntary participation. Sebastian will remain invisible for 3 days after the procedure is completed, before performing the reversal. Matt warns Sebastian on the day of the procedure, that he still has time to change his mind. On the operating table, Sebastian takes the serum from Linda, and says he'll inject himself, so Linda won't be held responsible if anything goes wrong. Shortly after injecting the serum into his vein, he reports feeling tense, and experiencing an increase in his pulse rate. He starts thrashing around in pain, as his skin starts to peel away. After a while, his heart rate begins to normalize. Sebastian quickly loses consciousness, and his body gradually becomes invisible. After 17 hours, he finally comes to life. Sebastian, who is overwhelmed by the brightness, requests that Linda turn off the lights, noting that he is unable to close his eyelids. Linda points out that even when he closes them, he can still see, because they are now transparent. Sebastian rushes to a mirror to check if he has truly become invisible. At night, while Sarah is sleeping, Sebastian approaches her and caresses her hair, trying to determine if she is awake. He then starts unbuttoning her shirt and touching her melons. When Sarah awakens, she notices her unbuttoned shirt, and inquires if Sebastian is in the room with her. Sebastian is not in his bed when Sarah looks at the monitor, but he returns and lies down as soon as Sarah turns around. The next morning, Sarah informs Linda and Matt of her suspicions, that Sebastian had done something to her while she was sleeping. 3 days after the procedure, the team prepares Sebastian for the reversal. Sebastian begins to breathe heavily, after Matt injects him with the serum, indicating that something is wrong. He thrashes around the table, and eventually manages to free himself from the straps. Matt and Carter hold him down. Matt administers CPR to him. His pulse eventually returns, and his body fades back into invisibility. When Sebastian awakens hours later, Linda informs him that he was on the verge of death. Sebastian tells Linda that he needs to make some adjustments, if he's going to remain invisible. So they make a latex mask to make him visible. Over the next few days, Matt desperately tries to figure out how to reverse the procedure without killing Sebastian. Sebastian is unhappy after 10 days of invisibility, as a result of numerous tests and confinement in the lab. When Carter is the only one at the lab watching over him, he decides to go out one night. Sebastian returns home, to find his next-door neighbor changing her clothes. He decides to use his invisibility to go to the next building, and get a closer look at the woman. Sebastian rang the doorbell several times, until the woman opened the door and comes out of the room. When she gets back inside, Sebastian notices the woman combing her hair. He then repeatedly moves the mirror, causing the woman to panic and look around the room. Then Sebastian begins to force himself on her. Linda quickly arrives at Sebastian's apartment, and finds his mask and clothes on the bed. After hugging his neighbor, Sebastian looks out the window, and notices Linda in his apartment. He waits until Linda has left before returning home. Back at the lab technician Frank Chase distributes tranquilizer guns to the rest of the research team, as they prepare to go outside to look for Sebastian. But Sebastian arrives and informs them that he only went home to get a few items. Linda warns him that if he attempts to leave the lab again, she will report him to the committee. Linda expresses to Matt her concern that Sebastian's invisibility has begun to affect his mind, considering that he has been invisible for far longer than the animals. A few days later, Matt calls Linda to tell her that he has made a breakthrough. However, during a lab simulation, the process fails. Sebastian complains to Linda about being unable to use his invisibility, and adds that he has become a prisoner at the lab. Later that night, Sebastian takes an electronic device from the lab, and installs it in his room's camera, causing a video loop of himself sleeping on the bed to play. He decides to pay Linda's apartment a visit, and discovers that she has been dating Matt. Sebastian breaks the window next to the bed, interrupting Matt and Linda. Linda calls the lab to check on Sebastian, but Frank says he's in bed. Sebastian, enraged by jealousy, returns to the lab. He becomes irritated by the barking of the invisible dog. So he grabs it, and slams it against the cage walls until it dies. Linda is working at home, when she is suddenly disturbed by noises throughout the room, prompting her to rush to the lab to see if Sebastian is present. Linda sees him lying in bed on the video monitor, but she decides to check by herself, and confirms that he is indeed not present in his room. She realizes that he's been running a video loop of himself in bed, so she calls everyone in the team to get back to the lab. The following day, she tries to contact members of the oversight committee, but the phone lines abruptly disconnect. The security system prevents Matt and Linda from using the elevator to leave the lab. The research team quickly discovers that their lab access codes have been revoked. Janice Walton, the lab technician, falls behind the team, as they begin their search for Sebastian. Sebastian slams the door and strangles her with an IV line. She screams, but the screeching of the animals in their cages drowns out her voice. Linda uses the intercom to inform Sebastian that the committee is already aware of his actions. The team soon realizes Janice is missing, and her lifeless body is discovered inside a locker. Linda requests that Frank restore their access codes, so that the motion detectors can be activated. When Matt and Carter notice someone moving through the corridors, they arm themselves with tranquilizer guns, and follow Linda's lead to Sebastian. Carter identifies heat signs behind the pipes, but Matt recognizes the heat as originating from the vent. Sebastian grabs Carter while hiding on a ceiling pipe, while Matt is not looking. Matt shoots him, but he misses and hits a pipe instead. Carter is thrown against the wall by Sebastian. He hits a metal box near the pipes, cutting a major artery and causing massive blood loss. Sebastian punches and kicks Matt to the ground, but Linda arrives to save him. Sarah notices that Carter has lost a significant amount of blood. So she takes several bags of blood from the walk-in fridge. Before she can return to Carter, Sebastian locks her in, so she spills the blood all over the floor, to see Sebastian's footsteps. She succeeds in dousing Sebastian in blood, but he tackles her and shoots her with a tranquilizer gun. Sebastian, not satisfied with knocking Sarah out, breaks her neck and kills her instantly. Carter soon dies from severe blood loss, while Frank waits for Sarah to return. Frank leaves Carter's dead body behind, and goes with Matt and Linda to find Sarah. After they discover her body in the walk-in fridge, Sebastian appears and stabs Frank with a crowbar. After stabbing Matt with a metal bar, Sebastian locks him and Linda inside the refrigerator. He returns to his room, to prepare to leave the laboratory by wearing his mask. Linda bandages Matt's wound with duct tape, and escapes from the fridge using a magnetized metal drawer handle. She then takes Matt out of the freezer, and starts a fire in order to warm him up. Meanwhile, Sebastian gathers chemicals, in order to create an explosive that will blow up the lab, and cover up his crimes. He loads the chemicals into a centrifuge, sets the timer for 5 minutes, and then heads to the elevator. Linda stops him, and burns him up with a flamethrower as he approaches the lift. She slides to the floor to keep the elevator doors from closing, and continues to fire at Sebastian. As he walks out of the lift, Sebastian slowly peels away his burnt clothes, making him invisible once more. Linda uses the last of the flamethrower's fuel to turn on the sprinklers. Sebastian approaches her and subdues her, but Matt saves her by knocking Sebastian out with a crowbar. Sebastian tries to hit Matt with the crowbar, but Matt fends him off, causing him to strike a fuse box. As Sebastian is electrocuted, his body becomes partially visible. When Matt and Linda discover Sebastian's explosive, they rush to the elevator, hoping to climb the ladder leading outside. As they climb, the makeshift bomb explodes, sending the elevator up and scraping Linda's shoulder. The elevator is then lowered, but it comes to a stop just as it is about to hit Matt. As they start climbing the ladder again, Sebastian pulls Linda back down. Linda and Sebastian fall on the elevator, which is only held up by a thick wire. As she struggles to break free, Sebastian steals one last kiss from Linda, telling her it's for old time's sake. Linda kisses Sebastian, while she is about to release the lift shaft. She hangs onto the wire, and with the lift, Sebastian also falls into the fire. She witnesses Sebastian's pain and death in the elevator shaft. As firefighters battle the flames, Linda and Matt emerge from the burning building, and the movie ends here. To know the movie's name, check the pinned comment right now. If you like the story, then do watch the full film, and if you want to watch more such amazing recaps, then do subscribe to our channel and enable bell notifications, to receive the latest regular updates. See you in the next recap.